Today's episode is one I never imagined I'd record, but it's one I have to. Not just for me, but for all the men and women who've been looped, silenced, shamed, and spiritually manipulated under the guise of higher consciousness. Because spiritual abuse doesn't always look like a priest or a patriarch. Sometimes it's a woman in luxury clothing who calls herself a divine channel and uses the light, but also shame and psychic force to control your field. Now, I know this intimately because I walked through it in 2023. I've lived it, and I know I'm not the only one. I was part of the world of a spiritual business coach claiming to make quite a lot of money. And the thing is, I left that world quite fragmented. I was financially depleted, emotionally bruised, and disconnected from my self-trust. I was down 17K, and I'd lost my sense of direction for almost a year through this. I lost faith, not in God, not in my gifts, but in my ability to discern what is safe and true. I was told I wasn't devoted enough, that I was in resistance, that if I questioned her, then I wasn't spiritually evolved enough. And when I tried to leave, I was psychically attacked in my sleep. I woke up literally gasping for air. Now, this woman installed implants in my field to loop one of my deepest childhood wounds, bullying and abandonment. This was next level energetic interference disguised as healing. And I want to be clear, this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was calculated control wrapped in spiritual packaging. And I really wanted to share a framework with you today that helped me name what actually happened. Okay. Now it's called the BITE model. This was developed by a cult recovery expert named Stephen Hassan. Now, BITE stands for Behavior, Information, Thought, and Emotional Control. The four key areas cults use to manipulate and dominate people. Now, let me break this down and show you how it plays out in the spiritual coaching world when a leader slips into cult-like control. Now, the first one's behavior control, and this includes regulating your time and activities, your life, creating dependency on that person, and financial exploitation. So in my case, I was constantly encouraged to invest more and more and more with the promise of quantum leap and God codes and divine access. I was guilted for questioning anything. I felt like I had to keep giving to prove that I was ready and to prove my worth to this woman. Now, this wasn't mentorship, it was coercion masked as commitment. Number two is information control. This means withholding or distorting information, discouraging critical questions, and banning outside perspective. So I was told not to follow other mentors, even though when I first entered this woman's world, she said that her space would be complementary to the other people I was already working with. And that quickly changed, quickly turned around. Also being told, other teachings, they weren't real or they weren't true. They're not as activated. They don't play in the realm of higher consciousness or the divine. I was told I needed to stay in the field or I'd lose my progress. We literally were not allowed to feel a feeling in order to move through resistance, right? Now, I was already making good money at the time. Dissenting voices were dismissed as jealous or in ego. So everything was funneled through her perspective as if she was the final authority on truth. And I witnessed a lot of women drop out of their own truth inside her spaces, as well as me, obviously. Now, number three is thought control. This is a big one. Whoa. Creating a black and white or us versus them mentality, labeling independent thought as ego or resistance, and encouraging thought stopping phrases. So, anytime I had a doubt, I was told, well, either I was not in surrender, or I was in my trauma, or I was resistant to change. And this sort of spiraled my feelings of unworthiness, right? I started policing my own thoughts, terrified I'd lose access to the divine field if I didn't stay in alignment with her truth. Now, eventually, I didn't even trust my own thoughts, right? This is how deep this went. I believed that she knew better than me about my money, my healing, and even my path. And that leads me to number four, emotional control. This is the guilting, the fear, the shame as motivators, the gaslighting. Oh my gosh, creating dependency on the leader, but instilling this fear of leaving. Now, this was one of the most damaging of all, because this woman uses subtle shame disguised as high frequency truth. I felt like I was the problem for not ascending fast enough. She played on my devotion to God or the divine, and it turned into like this unknowingly obedience to her. And when I tried to pull away, I was actually quite terrified of this woman. I literally thought I would lose everything, that I'd fall off my path, that I would be abandoned. That's how deep this programming went, and it was very subtle and unconscious because this woman was literally placing spells on her clients. Okay. Now, I share this not to attack this person, but to expose a pattern because this isn't just about her, it's about an entire, let's call it a shadow frequency running through the coaching world right now, where people position themselves as divine authorities and light, and they're spiritually bypassing all accountability. They use light to dominate. They speak codes and spells to confuse, and they convince you that to leave them is to leave your path. Now, I'm here to say that's not love, that's not God, and that's not light. Now, this was the most confusing part for me is this woman seemed to be this higher consciousness, divine light being in a human body, and it was anything but. So if you've been through something like this, I want you to know that you can take your power back. And when I mean power, because you always have your power, your sovereignty, ownership of your realm. Okay. You can clear the implants, you can rebuild trust, and you can lead from your own inner truth again. What happened wasn't your fault, but your healing, that's sacred. That's your responsibility. And it's not just for you, it's for every woman and man who still doesn't have the words yet. So let this episode be a permission slip to call it what it is, to feel the anger, to process the betrayal, to unplug from the false light, and to remember that it doesn't make you broken. You were manipulated, but that ends now. Okay? Now, I want to offer you a few clear signs to look out for and some ways to protect yourself from ever falling into this, whether it's for the first time or again. Okay? Because awareness really is the first step, but discernment, that's long-term protection. So here are some ways to spot false light leaders or cultic coaching dynamics. They claim to be the only way. If someone tells you that your growth, your ascension, or your success depends on your proximity to them, back away. True leaders activate your sovereignty, not your dependency. And your intuition is consistently overridden. Okay, so if you keep feeling doubt, unease, or confusion, but you're told you're just resisting or you're not devoted enough, that is manipulation. You're never wrong for listening to your gut. Okay. They spiritual bypass all accountability. So when questions, feedback, or boundaries are met with spiritual jargon, energetic blame, or deflection, that is not high frequency. That is ego cloaked in light. You feel financially, emotionally, or energetically disempowered. True mentorship will stretch you, and that's a good thing, but it should never shame you or push you into a trauma response. If you're investing from fear, urgency, or the belief that they have access to something you don't, you're being played. The community might feel cliquey or culty. Now, if there's an inner circle, a hierarchy, a vibe of we're in and everyone else is unevolved, you're in a control structure, not a sacred container. Okay. So, how do you protect yourself before joining a spiritual program or mentor? You want to research, okay? Google them. You might find Reddit threads on this person. Now, use your discernment. There is a cancel culture out there who are also trying to take good people down. So it's a confusing time, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Use your own discernment. Feel into this, okay? Check out their testimonials. You can even talk to a past client. Look for patterns, not just glowing testimonials, but what people say after they leave too. Okay? Now pay attention to how your body feels. Does your nervous system feel expanded or contracted? Does it feel regulated or dysregulated? Because your body knows when something's off, even when the sales page is high vibe. Ask questions and watch how they respond. Now, a healthy mentor will welcome discernment. If they get defensive, vague, or turn it back on you, it's a red flag. Pause before you pay. Now, high frequency investments do not require high pressure decisions ever. If urgency or scarcity or you're going to miss the boat energy is being used to push you, then breathe. You have time. And remember, no one is above your truth, no matter how activated, anointed, or divine someone claims to be. If they are not honoring your sovereignty, then they're out of alignment, period. Okay? If you're trying to break free right now, start by telling the truth to yourself. Name what happened. Call your energy back from it, all of it. Work with a practitioner that you trust for clearing this up. If you feel like there's some things you can't spot yourself, yeah? Someone who isn't attached to hierarchy or ego. Talk to others who've been through it. There are many. Let yourself be witnessed. You're not alone. And slowly rebuild your relationship with your own inner guidance. That's where your power lies. We are in a massive collective clearing of false light. And the more we speak, the more we dismantle. Your story matters, your healing matters, and you don't have to carry this in silence. So if you've been going through this, I'm proud of you for listening, for being willing to look, for reclaiming your truth, no matter how messy or painful it's been. Okay. Now, if this episode supported you, please share it. Let it be a spark for someone else's freedom. And if you're ready to rebuild your voice, your power, your connection to the truth, I've got you. You're not broken. You're remembering. I love you. I see you. I believe you. We rise from here. And if you would love to be witnessed and share your story with me, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. The link will be below. And I am sending you so much love. Until next time, I love you.